So you just installed the dimmer switch and now your lights are flickering, they're buzzing, or they're turning off at random. Or maybe you're getting ready to install one for the first time and you want to make sure you do it right the first time. Either way, this video is for you because there's a lot of easy mistakes people make with dimmers, and a few of them can actually damage your lights or your switch. I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know before you install a dimmer. There are more things to know than just hooking up a couple of wires. We'll go through how to install a dimmer on both two-way and three-way switches. So let's get started. So the first question is, are you buying the right dimmer for your situation? There's a lot of dimmers out there. You've got regular dimmers, you've got two-way, three-way, smart dimmers, because not all dimmers are created equal. In my case today, I'm replacing a two-way switch for a dimmer that controls one ceiling fan and light, and also a three-way switch that controls two ceiling fans and lights. So here's what you need to check when you're at the store and you're ready to purchase your dimmer switch. So the first thing to look at is, can it be installed on a two-way or a three-way configuration? The one I chose can be installed either on a two-way switch or a three-way switch. The next thing to look for is how much total wattage of lights are you going to be dimming. And that's real simple to figure out. Just add up how many lights you have, how many bulbs, what the wattage is on those bulbs, and then look on the package and see how much total wattage that your dimmer switch can handle. And it's different for LEDs and incandescent and halogen bulbs. So make sure you look at it. The one I'm doing today, or the two I'm doing today, are going to be for LED bulbs. So for the three-way switch, there's 8 bulbs total, and each bulb is 8 watts of power. So 8 watts times 8 bulbs is 64 watts total. And this switch, or this dimmer, says it can handle up to 150 watts. So we're good to go on that. The dimmer only works with dimmable bulbs. So make sure the bulbs that are inside of your light are dimmable. A lot of LEDs are not dimmable, so look on the package and read and make sure it says dimmable lights or non-dimmable. So let's talk about the kind of switch you're replacing. It's either going to be a two-way or a single pole. It'll have 2 screws on it and the ground screw. Or it'll be a three-way that has 3 screws plus your grounding screw. And don't worry, I'll walk you through the wiring in just a bit. So these are the tools that I recommend you have before you get started. First of all, a Phillips head screwdriver. Next, a voltage tester. Next, a pair of wire strippers. And last, some electrical tape. Now here's something that's very important for you to know. You only use this dimmer with permanently installed lighting fixtures. In other words, you can't use it for an outlet, or you can't use it for a ceiling fan or an appliance. Now you can use it for the ceiling fan lights, but if your ceiling fan has one switch that controls both the lights and the ceiling fan, and you have to pull a pull chain, then you cannot use a dimmer on that. You can only use it if you have a separate switch for the lights themselves. Because if you don't, you're either going to burn out your dimmer and maybe your lights also. If you try to use it on the ceiling fan, it'll probably burn the motor out. Now here's another thing that a lot of people don't know about. All LED bulbs are not created equal, especially when it comes to dimming. Some dim all the way down to 0.1%, while others can only dim down to 50%, and they're going to start flickering or they'll shut off if you go below that. Now the big box store by us sells this Lutron, and I've used these before a lot and they really work good. I've had no problem with them. They actually have a link on their website that you can look at all the different bulbs, and they'll tell you if it's a good bulb to use with their switches or their dimmers, or whether they're not good to use. So if you're having trouble with your bulbs, look on there, or just buy some different bulbs that are dimmable. Make sure you check that out. So before we even get started, the number one thing we need to do is turn the power off to the switch or to the fan that we're going to be working on. So if you haven't seen my video on the most important thing about electrical wiring, I'll put a link to it up here on the top, and you can go through that. So after your power is turned off and you've used your voltage tester to test it to make sure, then let's go ahead and we'll start taking the switch off. Here's another important thing to do. While you're doing that, take a picture of the wiring you have right now. That photo will save you if anything gets confusing. You can always go back to it and look at it. Take it from several sides. That way, if you get mixed up, you'll know what wire goes where. Now, the first one we're going to be working on is the two-way or the single pole. So it's very simple. You just have 2 screws, and I'll show you how to replace it with this dimmer, because this dimmer will accept both two-way or single pole and also 3-way switches. So after we've taken off this old switch and checked again to make sure there's no power going to it, I always recommend inspecting the wire before you put it on to the new dimmer. By inspecting it, make sure there's no cut marks or breaks, or make sure that the insulation on it is not hot and burnt and crumbly. Because if it is, what I always recommend doing is cutting back. As long as you have enough wire coming out of your receptacle box, cut off the old shepherd's hook and go ahead and put a new one on there. Again, if you want to learn about the proper way on stripping wires, check out my video on how to do that so you can get it done correctly. It's very simple. So after we've stripped that off there, let's go ahead and make our shepherd's hook. Wrap it around the proper direction on your screw. Make sure it's tightened down. And the reason I chose these type of dimmers that has the dimmer slider on the side is because I can use it in the same cover plate that's already on the switch, like this one. They fit right on there. You don't have to buy a special cover, a new one, because some of the ones that are the toggler style, you'll have to buy new covers to fit. And if you have 2 or 3 switches on the same plate, it might be difficult to find one that will match to it. So here's a feature that's built into these Lutron togglers that I really like, and a lot of people miss this. It's this little blue button or this toggle right here. What this is, it's a low end trim lever. It helps you fine tune how low your bulbs will dim. So what you do to set it is just go ahead and turn your dimmer switch or the slider down as far as it'll go, and then take the blue lever and move it all the way toward the minus sign until it stops. Once it stops, check to see if your lights are still on. If they've shut off or if they're starting to flicker, take the little blue switch here and move it up just slightly, a little bit at a time, toward the plus sign until your lights are stable. Once your lights are stable, turn your lights off, turn them back on again, slide your dimmer up and down, and if everything works good, then you have it all set. Just go ahead and put your cover back on and you're done. So now we're going to go through how to install it on a 3-way. But a 3-way has 2 switches. That way you can turn your lights off and on one switch and off and on the other switch. You don't have to run across the room to switch it. So when you put on a 3-way, you can only put a dimmer on one of the switches. You can't put a dimmer on both switches. So once you have it figured where you want it, then let's go ahead, shut your breaker off to make sure there's no power. Use your voltage tester. Test it to make sure that you're getting no beeping noise or it's not. Then after you do that, take the picture of all sides of the previous switch that's in there right now. Since we're working on a 3-way, take a note of the wire that's on the odd color screw. See this screw here that's black as opposed to the 2 brass colored ones? Take a piece of tape and put a piece of tape on that wire, because that's very important to remember where that wire is. And again, take the pictures from either side. Now, let's go ahead and undo our wires and let's install the new dimmer. Okay, so it's important. Let's go ahead and let's put our ground wires and connect it together to the other ground wire that's in there. Once you've done that, you want to take the wire that you put the tape on and you mark that as a special wire. You're going to take that and put it on the copper colored screw. Then, after you've done that, let's go ahead and connect the traveler wires, or the two other wires, to your brass screws. You're going to have one here and one down here. Make sure you have enough room. Since this is larger than your old switch, you can see the size difference. Go ahead and push it inside there easily without damaging the wires or kinking the wires too much. And then go ahead and tighten it on there. Turn your breaker back on, restore the power, and let's test your dimmer switch. So here's a feature that's built into these Lutron togglers that I really like, and a lot of people miss this. It's this little blue button, or this toggle right here. What this is, it's a low end trim lever. It helps you fine tune how low your bulbs will dim. So what you do to set it is just go ahead and turn your dimmer switch or the slider down as far as it'll go, and then take the blue lever and move it all the way toward the minus sign until it stops. Once it stops, check to see if your lights are still on. If they've shut off or if they're starting to flicker, take the little blue switch here and move it up just slightly, a little bit at a time, toward the plus sign until your lights are stable. Once your lights are stable, turn your lights off, turn them back on again, slide your dimmer up and down, and if everything works good, then you have it all set. Just go ahead and put your cover back on and you're done. So alright, that's it. You've installed your dimmer switch. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Also, leave a comment. If you have any other things or any other switches that you've tried besides the Lutron, go ahead and tell us about it in the comments. We like to hear your comments, and it helps other people who are also reading the comments. And don't forget, I've got product links in the description for the tools, the dimmer, the LED bulbs that I personally use. Normally you can pick these up at your local. I got these at Lowe's, but if they don't have it or you don't have access to a store, look at my link down below. It'll take you to Amazon. You can go ahead and purchase them through there. Plus, don't forget my other videos. It might be just the video you need for the project that you're working on. So thanks for watching. You take care, and God bless.